It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with financial advisors Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. My name's Mike Bernard. I am your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. With me in the KFG studios, my business partners, my friends, and fellow CFPs, Joshua Gregory and Kevin Korhorn.
As a grandparent, you want the best for your kids and your grandkids, right? I hope that that's true for you. One of the creative ways that we've seen some grandparents help both generations win financially is to consider helping the grandkids with college funding. We're going to share the top 5 ways to do that in this episode.
Yeah, you get the old kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. You help your kids by helping your grandkids.
There you go.
Yeah, that's legacy stuff right there. If you have a question, we've got a couple great ones here as well. So we've got one where someone was in the audience of another financial professional, overheard the financial professional say some things and say, hey, that doesn't seem right. Guys, is this right? Whew, we got that one coming up here. If you have a question, you can reach out to us a few different ways. You can call us or text us, 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyradio.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at, we're there too. Just search the Wise Money Show. You can leave questions right there as well. Okay, so Brad and Jenny, they've been clients for a long time. They each make about $40,000 a year, so that puts them squarely in the middle class. When we first started working with them, we talked to them about, hey, what are your goals? And retirement was up there. Getting out of debt, actually. Some consumer debt was the very first one. Building an emergency fund and then being able to retire. So they didn't have tons of resources. So I asked about, hey, what about college for the 2 kids? And they said, well, we want to help as much as we can. However, that's not a priority above us paying off debt, getting the right cash, and then someday being able to retire. So we'll help, but it's not a huge priority. Well, the oldest is now in college. And so that rubber has kind of met the road the last couple of years, and we've sort of strategized, well, how much were you able to save up? How much will that cover? How much in student loans will the son or daughter need to get? And it turns out Brad's father has been saving some money as well for the 529 plan. And they suspected, but they didn't really know.
Really?
And so Grandpa stepped in and said, Grandpa and Grandma stepped in and said, hey, We've got $5,000 a year that we can give towards college, and that was huge. It was enormous, and Brad and Jenny were elated.
But can you imagine how the grandparents felt too?
Yeah.
I mean, sitting on this secret for 18 years, or I don't know when it was revealed to Brad and Jenny or the grandkids, but to be planning that far ahead and to be contributing kind of in secret is fun when you get to do the whole big reveal. It's always interesting to me as a financial advisor, though. I'll hear stories of that from some of our clients, not about the surprise part, but about the suspicion that maybe this is happening. And I'm always encouraging them to gently try to understand, hey, it seems like, Grandma, Grandpa, you're looking at maybe participating in this college funding. Is there anything that you can reveal to us, because it could influence some of our planning and our preparations as well?
Right.
That's an awkward conversation to have, though, if they're kind of keeping their cards close to their vest.
Yeah, this is where I would encourage you, if you're a grandparent, to first of all get permission from your children, because I know certain children that have no interest in the grandparents funding the children's education, and that might sound a little bizarre, but it's important. Money, everyone thinks, well, you're tempted to think everyone thinks about money the way I think about money, and the truth is no one thinks about money the way you think about money. And so when you look at Nick Murray is an author that I've enjoyed reading my entire career. And he has the 5 great goals of life, and one of those goals is the ability to fund in whole or large part the education of one's grandchildren. That may or may not resonate with you if you are a grandparent, but if you are, that there are better ways to do that than others, and you'd want to understand what those are. But then I would also communicate that with your children and quite possibly your grandchildren, because when you look at, as a grandparent, providing money for your grandkids' education, I would not carte blanche just say, hey, here's the money. Now, again, no one thinks about money like I do. So the way I think about it, it's merit-based. All right? This is going to be called the Grandparents Scholarship, and you will earn this based on there's a lot of different ways to do it. It could be matching, so whatever you earn in the summer and save towards college, we'll match it, either dollar for dollar or 50 cents on the dollar or whatever. We'll pay you a certain amount per the number of A's that you receive. We'll pay for your last year of college.
Yeah.
So let the parents and children get the first 3 years taken care of, and if there's still great potential and great promise after 3 years, take care of it. So there are all kinds of different creative ways as a grandparent that you can get involved. You don't want to enable or create a dysfunction, but there are some pretty cool, fun ways if you want to be creative if that is one of your great goals of life, to achieve it.
I don't have any kind of data on this, but what does your gut tell you, you guys, as you work with grandparents, how often or what percentage would you guess of them have this as a goal, to be able to help their grandkids with college in some way? Is it a large percentage that you're seeing? Is it more of a minority?
Great question. We work with a skewed segment of the population. Not everyone has the courage to come in and meet with a financial advisor. We don't have minimums or anything like that, but even someone to carve out the time. So this might seem like a large number, but probably 20% of retirees, I would say. 20-25% of retirees are in some way either setting some money aside for grandkids for college. Many of those don't even have grandkids yet. They're looking at the tax planning and they're looking at their goals, saying, "Yeah, I'd like to help." Probably 25%.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is, you probably say the same thing about parents, because there are lots of. Because I think about that, and to answer your question, Joshua, how many grandparents want to be involved with their grandchildren's education? I'd say that number's close to 100%. But how many grandparents are actually doing something about it? I think my experience would match up to what Mike's is doing. You have to have a pretty powerful vision, and then I believe you have to have clarity, confidence, and creativity. Mm-hmm. And that is what your certified financial planner can provide, because they can say, hey, look, this is the impact on your financial life if you choose to do this. And some grandparents I've seen are able to do that with no potential sacrifice to their financial plan whatsoever.
Yeah.
I've seen some grandparents who are willing. I've seen some grandparents that are working because they love to work and they love their family and their grandkids, and they're using some of that money to help their grandkids go through college.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Every family has a different priority or a value in this area, and that's why the Nick Murray quote was interesting to me, because I wondered, well, how many people, is that a very universal thing? I've had many grandparents look me in the eye and say, I have zero desire to help my grandkids. And I wasn't proposing it. I was just asking.
Thanks
right?
a lot, Harold.
No, their attitude is, hey, I educated my kids. Now it's my kids' job to educate their own. And that's fine. That's just their value, their principle that they operate off of. I've even seen some grandparents who have no desire until they look their first grandchild in the eyes in the hospital room for the first time, and now all of a sudden they're inspired, and they want to get started early, even if it's something small.
So if you want to get started early, how do you do it? What are the best ways? I don't know. I liked hearing that match earnings. I just feel like, and I've heard you say that before, Kevin, but I feel as though where that lands right now in our society, that just has a better sound to it. Matching earnings, paying for the fourth year of college. I remember when we had a client that we were working with, and then you find out that grandchild's going to Notre Dame, and you're like, oh. I didn't really
get to work, Grandpa.
Just kidding. So there's a few creative ways. I agree with you, Kevin. Clarity, confidence, and creativity. We're going to talk to you about the best ways, the 5 best ways. If you're a grandparent, and we're not pushing you, if doesn't line up with your values, that's fine. But if it does, and you want to help, what are the 5 best ways to help your grandkids get educated. So we've got that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Okay, thanks for being with us today. If you're new to the YouTube channel, thanks for being here. We release a new episode every single week. I'd encourage you to subscribe. I'd hit that bell for notifications. And then, as Kevin said last week, pound that thumbs up. You like what we're talking about?
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button. Leave comments as well below. Any comment, questions that you have, we'll get back to you. So thanks in advance for doing that. Okay. Grandparents help with your college?
Yes. With mine?
Yeah, with your college. Okay? Grandparents help with yours?
And Uncle Sam helped, right? You earned your way by serving.
My favorite uncle paid my way all the way through. Baby.
Tall hat like Lincoln, just more colorful.
Light goatee.
Yeah. Grandparents help with yours?
No.
So grandparents helped with mine more than I could even quantify. And that's the answer
to number 5.
Yep. Now, another round here. Plan on helping grandkids?
Yes.
If I'm able.
Mm-hmm. I think college is going to look so different.
I do too.
That it might be more of number 5.
I am for sure. I am going to double down the number 5 portion, and then if there are resources beyond that, but I can't imagine that by the time if I look at the cost when I went to college from '89 to '93, the costs, the lid has come off the costs. So I mean if the curve, if the slope of that line does not change, I cannot imagine saying that it's worth it.
All right, so these 5, we didn't get into any of them, and I don't know if there needs to be much discussion about. I mean, the 529 probably more discussion, but there can be a comment here, comment there. But if we discuss each of them, we're not going to get to any questions, and I think we want some variety. So
so the ironic thing is, my grandparents did not help with me at all. My parents didn't help with me at all. But my dad has funded something for my children.
Oh, that's great.
So I actually, that to me is an interesting. Are we going to talk about the 529 then?
Yeah, that'll be the second one. Yep.
Because I would love to share like a.
Yeah, so Josh said, and I didn't want to, I wasn't sure if I should say this. You can't say everything. He said some grandparents don't have a plan to contribute to college until they see their grandchild for the first time. You know what? Most grandparents that I've seen don't really plan on it until they see that tax credit for the first time. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'll do that.
When you look into the eyes of that tax credit and you think, that thing is so cute.
It looks just like me. It has my nose.
Yep. Less diapers on that thing. All right. All right, segment 2. As a grandparent, do you want to participate in educating your grandkids? Is that a legacy that you'd like to leave? If so, what are the 5 best ways to do that? That's what we're talking about today. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being with us. My name's Mike. Here with me in the KFT studios, Kevin and Josh. I want to say thank you to the attorneys at South Bank Legal, as well as First State Bank, for making the Wise Money Show possible. Thank you very much. And then also, if you want to stay up to date on all Wise Money content, you can find us online, wisemoneyradio.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at, we're there too. Just search the Wise Money Show, and I'd subscribe to it there as well, just to stay up to date on everything we're pushing out. Okay, we're starting off the show, before listener questions, about if you, as a grandparent, want to help your grandkids with college. We already acknowledged that's sort of a double whammy gift, because you're helping your kids by helping your grandkids. And that's why the term legacy is so often associated with college planning. So let's get into it. What are the 5 best ways to do it? The first recommendation is to rethink your gifting strategy for your grandkids. And let me tell you a little bit more about what I mean. When there's a birthday, when there's a Christmas, when there's a special event, and your kids are young, your grandkids are young, that's it's toys, or it might turn into gift cards. It's something tangible. Consider attaching an intangible college gift to every gift during those special occasions. Whether you're setting this money aside and just telling parents about it, or maybe make it tangible by saying, I've put $50, here's a gift for $50, and I've put $50 into a 529 plan for you, something like that.
That's an interesting idea. I've always, so this is a parent speaking here. I've looked at the gifts that my kids get showered with at birthdays and Christmas, and I'm grateful for the gesture as a parent. I also think, wow, that's going to be just sitting on their bedroom floor, and we're going to be begging them to pick it up every single day for the next 3 months until it's broken or lost or thrown away or something. And I often think, this is being way too practical, why not just give something that will appreciate in value over time and help them down the road when it really matters?
Like Legos.
Yeah, exactly. Those do go up in value, don't they?
They do.
But then I also asked myself, well, would I be that grandparent who's willing to forego a moment of joy in giving a fun gift and instead say, I'm giving the long-term gift? But what you just said is combining them.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
It's not either or. It's both. And I actually, I'm the benefactor of this. My folks say, here's for Carrington, Kuiper, Easton, this is what we're getting for them. It's approximately this value, and we're matching that by here's something to go into their college account. And I just have appreciated that, and I've seen a lot of clients do that as well.
So the birthday or the Christmas is just the trigger or the reminder that they want to give.
Yep.
But think about the life lesson that you'll be able to share someday with Carrington when she's ready to go to school, and she's got hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars built up in this education account, and she can't for the life of her remember any of those toys that she got back when she was 4 or 5.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
What a fantastic lesson.
So connected to this one is well, you've got to, if you're going to give that gift, you've got to do something with it. And so the second way that grandparents can help with college is to set up their own 529 plan and save into it for the grandchild.
And this kind of ties in actually to the first one.
Right.
Because that gift, so here's the interesting thing. You've got a little bit of a fork in the road here. So that gift can either be, hey, listen, I've put money in a 529 plan that I own for the benefit of your child, or here's money for you to put money into the 529 plan that you own for the benefit of your child.
What's the difference and why?
Well, there's the big difference, especially in the state of Indiana, because I can get a 20% credit on everything that I put into my 529 plan up to $5,000. So if I put in up to $5,000, I can get a credit of up to $1,000. So I've seen scenarios where parents are saying, hey, listen, I want to do some gifting. I want to do some ongoing gifting, and what can I gift, what have you. And I say, well, are your children currently funding a 529 plan? And they say no. And I say, well, you can gift them $5,000 and have them put that in the 529 plan. That'll get them $1,000 on their tax return. So people think, well, okay, so if the husband puts in 5 and the wife puts in 5, can we each get a credit? No, it's one credit per tax return. So grandparents can gift children $5,000. The children put that in, get the $1,000 on their tax return. Grandparents can then put $5,000 in a 529 plan that they own themselves and get a $1,000 credit themselves as well. Yep. And a lot of times people say, well, what if it doesn't get used for college? I have seen the best uses of 529 plan money. It's a good place, and it's really a good place to have money when you die. So if you say, I might not get through all of my money in my lifetime, then that's a good place to be tucking money on an ongoing basis and to have it when you die.
Well, one of the nice features about a 529 plan is yes, every 529 plan has an owner or custodian who's the legal owner of the account, but then you have a beneficiary that you name on it, and that beneficiary can be changed once a year as well. So if you start out with a 529 plan for your oldest grandchild, and that oldest grandchild doesn't end up needing the money because they get a full ride, or that's kind of the dream come true for many folks, you can always roll it down to one of their siblings or a cousin, keep it in the family, and that money can eventually get used up if you plan it right.
That's right. There is some creativity you might want to consider as a grandparent having the 529 plan when the child is about to go off to school. Josh, you talked about that a few shows ago about possibly transferring the ownership of that into the parent's name so that it's if you're trying to maximize financial aid, but so many people, financial aid is just a barrage of loans that you could get. So that might matter, that might not. But 529 plan, big tax planning strategy.
Yeah. So my son Joshua was born in the year 2000. He was born in February, and my dad said, "Hey, I want to do something," and so he set up a plan to do just $50 a month. And originally, I said, "Okay, Dad, here's what makes sense. We don't really care what the market's going to do, so let's put this into Invesco Technology." Because Invesco Technology in 1999 returned 120%.
That's it?
And I thought, all right, if Invesco Technology only does half what it did last year, we'll be fine. Now, I don't know where Invesco Technology ended up in 2000, maybe down 30%. But the nice thing is if a grandparent does some sort of systematic investing over the 19 years, I think that's totaled up to about 18 grand. So, I mean,
that's awesome.
And you think, well, that will pay for the books for the first semester.
You think about that, though. In 2000, if that's when your dad started a $50 a month contribution, the first 3 years of Joshua's life, that account only lost money.
Yes.
And yet, if he kept on contributing, he kept buying at lower and lower, or hear me say, better and better prices along the way. And the upswing on the other side of that, when we came into 2003 and we were in recovery mode for the next 5 years, how fantastic is that growth story? 18 grand, you said it's been built up. That's awesome.
I mean, there were two times there when as a grandparent you were thinking, I'm trying to help, not hurt. And I'm putting this money in, losing money. Oh, actually, I'm buying shares. It's going up. That's great. Okay, no, I just lost a whole bunch of money. It's gone down half its value. I can't ever educate my grandkids on this. This was a huge mistake. And if you've had the guts, the discipline to stay with it, then you've very much been rewarded. That's how you get to $18,000 from $50 a month. Yeah, absolutely.
Great story.
There's a couple other ways. My favorite I've already mentioned is number 5. My grandparents played an enormous role in my education, and I will share a little bit of that story. It really ties into principle number 5. Plus, we got a couple of great questions from listeners of the show, fans of the show, that we're going to hit. So we've got numbers 3, 4, and 5, creative ways for grandparents to help with college, and then listener questions, that and more, coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. All right. Let's just expand on that for a minute. We had, so the college tax credit in Indiana came out late 06. I think the first year was 2007. And many people, we just said, hey, if you're interested in this, or if you're for your kids, your grandkids, and your financial plan looks great, cash flow looks good, take $5 grand, put it in this 529 account, you're going to get $1,000. And what percentage, you asked about percentage, what percentage of them said, well, I guess that was a dumb thing 2 years later? Probably 50%. Well, at least.
Wishing, yeah.
Okay, I put 5 into this, and it's only worth $3,500.
Yeah, should have just kept it in the bank.
Such a terrible idea.
I put 10 in it, and it's worth 6. And so the folks that said, what should I do, got great advice. And that was keep adding to it.
Yeah.
Now, the temptation, and this is where we're all hardwired to be horrible investors, the temptation, and a number of folks said this, was, okay, well, I'm open to putting more money into it, but it has to come back first.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wait until I get worse pricing to buy into this further. And a lot of times it's confusing to folks. A lot of folks thought the 529 is a horrible investment.
Right.
Because their 529 plan balance was shrunken considerably. The 529 is not an investment. The 529 is a container, if you will, and the investments inside of that performed poorly, matching the stock market that performed poorly.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, we just don't know.
Right.
At the time, you had no idea how long it would take to come back. We knew it would come back.
Which is why getting started early is so valuable, because when you've got 18 years to let that investment account go through its ups and downs, over an 18-year period of time, you should be able to have confidence that it is going to march to a higher balance.
Yeah.
Right? Don't know what the roller coaster ride in between will be, but give yourself plenty of time to let that thing grow.
Yeah.
So-
All right. Start
so-
segment 3.
Yeah, the interesting thing is we started in earnest using the Indiana 529 plan in 2007, and our clients collectively have amassed about $5 million at $5,000 a pop.
And they've been drawing money out of that like crazy too.
Right.
So
Yes, yes,
could
they
be,
have.
Could be a lot more. So
It's amazing.
all right. Let's get through these 3 and maybe even start in on the question, because I think these first 2 might not require much discussion.
So
at
do we
all.
want to say anything else about the 529 plan? Or we're done?
I don't think so. We've done
Okay.
lots of shows on it.
Yep.
We'll do
Okay.
a lot more. So. As a grandparent, do you have in mind leaving a legacy for your family? And does that maybe involve helping some of your grandkids with college? So we're talking about the best ways to do that. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Mike Bernard. Here with me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Thank you to Bethel University Adult and Graduate Studies, as well as Diane Bennett and her Inspired Homes team of realtors for making the Wise Money Show possible. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. If you aren't familiar with the YouTube channel, I'd encourage you to find us there. Go to YouTube, just search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it, turn on notifications, and then smash that like button and leave comments as well. Any comments you leave, we will get back to you. Appreciate that. All right, we are in the second half of the kind of the headliner for today, which is, as a grandparent, if you have a goal of helping to educate your grandkids, what are the most creative ways to do it? We've talked about some practical ones, talked about some creative ones. Matching earnings, paying for the 4th year, just paying for books. They're just outrageously expensive. So saying, hey, I've got that covered. You don't need to stress out about it. Those are some good ideas. We left off about the 529 plan, a huge tax planning tool for grandparents and for parents. We're going to be talking more about that. But the third way to help grandkids with college is, instead of saving money and setting money aside, it could just be, hey, they're in school. They just got an invoice. I'm going to pay the school directly.
Yeah. That doesn't happen very often, does it?
No.
Can I confess to you that I kind of dreamed that this might happen while I was in college?
I have clients that tell me they still don't know who paid for their college. It was
Really?
gifted. Yeah.
Wow. See, you remember reading the book Great Expectations in high school? That was
No,
like
I don't.
You don't?
No.
I don't want to ruin it for you then, but it's basically about this kid who's
You're not
orphaned.
ruining it. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Josh. Trust me, you're not ruining it.
I don't know. It's about this kid who has a benefactor, and he thinks it's one person, but it turns out to be someone else, and someone's just feeding money to him, and he doesn't even know where it's coming from or why. And I used to think in college, is it possible that someone else could just kind of cover this bill for me? But it can be done. Some grandparents actually do show up, write a check to the school, may or may not tell their grandkids. But that's interesting that you know someone
Yep.
who
Seen it
the
happen.
whole thing was paid for?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So there are a few tricks with this. You know, it has to be the payments have to be made directly to a qualifying educational organization. and it's for tuition only, not for room and board or other things. And there are some, and we're probably not going to get into this, but there are some, technically you could make a case, there are some tax benefits. I wouldn't call it that, but if you are gifting tons and tons of money, there could be a little tax benefit there.
Just be aware, this isn't a charitable donation, though.
Right.
So
No, you're not going to deduct this on your tax return.
That can be confusing, though. So if I pay the money directly to a nonprofit, I should be able to claim it because it's a nonprofit. Yeah, but you're receiving benefit. The grandchild is receiving a benefit, so there's no charitable deduction.
And it may result in a reduction in the student's eligibility for need-based financial aid. So just be aware of seems like for every gimme there's a gotcha. So just watch out.
So the fourth way that grandparents can help tremendously in educating the grandkids is similar to, I haven't seen it that often, and it's similar to this. It's just on the other side of college. So grandchild has gone through college, has amassed some student loans, and then you want to step in and say, hey, I will pay one of these off for you, or I'll pay $5,000 towards your student loan. I'll give you some money and pay it directly onto that loan so that you have less debt. I think we might be going into a phase where grandparents might want to consider this more and more just because of the significant size of the student loan and the issues. The reason why I'd consider it is if you put this on the other side of college, then it still gives the grandchild ownership over college. Right? If they knew that you were paying directly to the school, they might not get that summer job. They might not work quite as hard because you're making that contribution directly there. If they feel the weight of, nope, I'm responsible and I've got these loans, I'll figure out a way, and then you make a donation or help them cover that student loan after college, that could be a huge gift.
That's one of the reasons why many parents take this approach too. They let their kids take out a loan. Maybe they're not quite in a position to be able to help with college the way they want to right now. Maybe they're still paying off a mortgage or something like that. But then down the road, something changes in their financial life and they suddenly have the ability to help. Maybe they received an inheritance, or maybe they did pay off that mortgage. There's nothing saying that you have to help with college planning on the front end or even during the college years. You could help wipe out the loan after. And I've seen some grandparents who, while their grandkids were going through college, it was not a priority for them. It wasn't a value. They were early in their own retirement, so they didn't know if they even really had the financial capacity to help their grandkids. And now, 15, maybe 20 years into retirement, they're realizing, boy, I actually have more than I'm going to end up needing. Mm-hmm. And some of this money could be used to bless a future generation while I still get to see it happen and see the benefits of it in their life. So, helping kids with college loans down the road is an amazing way to support them.
And that really could tie back to the very first one where we were talking about grandparents for birthdays and Christmas giving gifts that go into an educational fund. This might be the time to say, hey, instead of giving you a gift, I'm going to pay this money directly onto your student loan and help you reduce that student loan debt.
The last way, the fifth way that grandparents can help with college cannot be understated. It's going to feel soft. It really cannot be understated. When I was going into 7th grade, I met a certain challenge, and the challenge was to do this certain work and you'll get $500 this summer. And I did that. And I told my grandpa about it. He knew, and he was born in 1921, child of the Great Depression. And as soon as I got that check, he said, let's go put it in a CD. And he took me to the bank. And he sat me down. This is something I always loved about my grandfather, is even as a kid, he put me in positions where I needed to talk to the adult and I needed to act responsible. From the moment I was in travel hockey teams asking for donations, he would set the hey, you should talk to this person, but he'd always put me in the responsible seat. So he brought me to the bank and said, just sat there and said, okay, Mike, tell them you want a CD. And he helped me get that set up, and we would talk about college, and he would talk about hard work, and he would talk about the values of working and avoiding debt and so on. So my grandpa helped instill to me that I needed to go on and get an education. He didn't go to college, and he worked on the line and did a lot of hard labor, and the value of saving and avoiding debt. And so really this fifth way that grandparents help is to just educate their kids about money and about real life, maybe about their careers and what they experienced. That cannot be understated, but that is such an enormous gift towards your grandchild's education.
You know what? What an amazing story and an amazing legacy that your grandparents have left, and you've shared more of those types of stories kind of privately. But you don't have to be a grandparent to be able to make that investment into a child's future to help change their thinking or give them a better paradigm for how they approach not only their financial life, but just their life in general. And so whether you're a parent today or a grandparent who wants a better future for their kids, yeah, there's some creative ways that you can get involved. But at the very least, make sure you're making an investment in their thinking. Yeah, that's really the legacy that you're going to carry with you forever, right?
Yeah, I look back to my grandpa Wittenbach and how he had 18 grandchildren, and each of us thought that we were his favorite. And he taught us about hard work and about loving a family and leading a family, and that's the stuff that sticks to your ribs.
And colleges aren't teaching that. And I would tell you that is what real life's about. You need to get that education. So, all right. I hope that helps you take your next wise step towards helping grandkids with college. We've got a great question from Leah from Elkhart coming up. That and more on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Okay. And so for YouTubers, Grandpa, there will be more stories about Grandpa and finances, but it was that event where I actually found this interest and passion into how money works. And if you're on YouTube right now, maybe you found other YouTube videos that say, money's a game, make money a game, and I don't know if I love that idea. We'll be talking about that at some point, but I started to see how it worked and that I could put this $500 into a CD, and then they would give me money. Like money could make money for me, and I had my little pocket booklet, and I would write down every single month how much interest I made, and that was so cool. And that is what paved the way to me guiding other people to do that. God used that as a turning point in my life. But Grandpa, they didn't have any money. He grew up in poverty and had a pension, thankfully. So he was able to retire, but they didn't have any money.
Yep.
So it wasn't out of this supreme wisdom. It was principles, really. So,
do you remember how much interest you were writing in the book each month?
It was pennies. 7 cents, 18 cents.
Yeah, but dude,
that was more money back then.
That was
right?
more. You know, Aunt Ruby used to
$1.
Aunt Ruby used to send us a birthday card, and she would tape a quarter into it, and she'd mail it to us. That was real money back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of them were close to $1. I mean, this is that would have been in the early 90s. Interest rates were, what is that?
Pretty reasonable back then.
Yeah, it would have been $1 or so a month. Yeah. I remember, it was tracking it to the penny though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, fourth segment, Land the Plane. We're going to start with Leah's question. We might hit, I don't know how much we have to say on that. I just didn't want to tuck it in at the end of the program. So Leah's and then maybe Heather's. Thank you so much for being with us today. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name's Mike Bernard. Here with me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. If you've missed anything, a great way to catch this episode and all others is on podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll find us there. Just search The Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it, and I'd ask you to do me a favor, and it's not just for us, it's for others as well. Rate the show and leave a comment as well. It helps other people find us and find content about wise financial principles. Thank you very much. We're transitioning into questions from fans of the show. The first one, oh my goodness, from Leah from Elkhart. Great question, great comment. Here's what she said. I was in an audience recently, and the speaker said they were a financial advisor from an insurance company, very well-known insurance company, and they said that one of the best places that you can put your emergency fund is in a permanent life insurance policy because you can always borrow the money back out of it if you ever needed it. It just didn't seem quite right to me. What do you guys think?
Well, let me guess, Leah. Were you at Ruth's Chris?
Right. Yeah, maybe.
I think Kevin's alluding to the concern that, if this is advice coming from someone who gets paid, who earns their living by selling certain financial products that pay a nice commission and maybe are an appropriate tool at times, when that appropriate tool starts becoming the go-to option for all kinds of different financial questions or problems, sometimes the tool gets overused or misused. And permanent life insurance is a good example of this. To state, and we weren't in the audience, so I don't know the tone that was used or anything. Maybe this was just an idea, but the way you framed it was that this was one of the best places to put emergency fund money. That implies that it's almost a universal idea that everyone should have permanent life insurance. So everyone should have this policy in place, and it is a cash value building account. You're buying life insurance, but it's building up kind of an investment component to it. And some people out there, financial professionals, believe that everyone should have permanent life insurance, and that's just not the philosophy that we believe. We personally think that permanent life insurance only applies if you have a permanent need, and most people don't have a permanent life insurance need because you don't have a disabled son or daughter maybe who will need some sort of financial resources created at your death, even if your death comes at age 90 someday. Yeah. Most people will eventually get themselves to a place financially where they don't need the life insurance. So if not everyone is going to have a permanent life insurance policy, then a permanent policy is not the ideal place to put an emergency fund. It needs to be something that is accessible to everyone, something that is liquid and earning a fair rate of return. It may not be the best rate of return that you could earn because usually the higher the rate of return, the more risk that you're accepting. And emergency fund money should not be put at risk, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last emergency that you had? And were you able to plan ahead for it? Like, when it was an emergency, were you able to say, oh, okay, I'll deal with this in 3 months?
Right.
No, it was an emergency.
Right.
How easy is it to get money out of a permanent life insurance policy? I mean, you can. That's true.
It's a pain in the neck, and it's likely that there's something called direct recognition. This is the thing. The life insurance industry has set things up so that there's really no way to get there from here. So direct recognition means if I borrow money against the cash value in my policy, I go to a different dividend scale. Yep. So if I have a policy with a big mutual company, somewhere in the Northwest, I might once I borrowed that money, I might go to a different dividend scale.
Here's the problem. As a consumer, number one, I like those commercials. Some of my favorite, you've heard me say this before, some of my favorite commercials are insurance commercials. I mean, they're stinking hilarious. This one in particular, not known for hilarious commercials, but just good. I mean, you just look at them and you're like, whoa. I mean, they've got their act together. And then you hear someone talk about playing on your emotions, and you would think, well, of course, that's what you should do. Yeah, but your financial life needs to be based on principles. And you've heard me talk about the rules or the principles with an emergency fund, and it's got to be FDIC insured. So you can't be taking risk with this money. It's got to be completely liquid, and possibly getting the money out in 3 to 6 months is not liquid. And then I would argue it needs to be free. I think about this life insurance policy and okay, even if you said that's a great place for my emergency fund, did they say great place for emergency fund and then a whole bunch of other cash flow along the way? Or was it just a single funded policy? I don't really get it, but it's got to be free. And after that, go get that competitive interest rate. The way I say, get the best stinking interest rate you can find. But it's got to meet those 3 pillars.
Right. So when you think about the question is a permanent policy right for me, and is it a good idea? Permanent insurance is a tool. So it can be, for the right person, in the right situation, the right idea. If I have a special needs child and I'm trying to endow something to make sure that no matter what happens in my lifetime, there'll be money left over to fund this, or I'm trying to fund something else at my death, a permanent policy might make some sense. If I've got a ton of cash and I can fully fund my retirement plan at work, I can fully fund Roth IRAs, my HSA, my 529, a number of other things.
And have money coming out my ears.
And I'm really healthy.
Yeah.
Because life insurance is a fabulous deal if you're really healthy.
Can be, yeah.
So if you can check all of those boxes, that might be a tool that you would consider to do some of the heavy lifting that you need to do.
You know, I'm sure that part of the rationale behind recommending this permanent life insurance policy as a place to park some emergency fund money is just looking at whatever the interest rate is on the cash value. Maybe it is better than what you can earn in the bank. But that shouldn't be a temptation to lure you into an investment or a pool of money that it's not easy to get liquid. It's not easily accessible, which doesn't satisfy one of the requirements that Mike was just saying. But it also just gets you thinking the wrong way about your emergency fund as well, because you know, there's other folks out there that would have a similar question. Maybe it's not a life insurance policy that you would throw your emergency fund in. There's some who say, well, why don't you invest it in a mutual fund?
Do you know that banks and credit unions, and if you're, there's some great folks out there, but the investment professionals there usually screen by looking at everyone's bank accounts and saying who has more than this in their bank accounts. Let's call them and see if they should be investing.
That's right. And what they may be proposing to you is that you get it into some sort of a mutual fund that is fluctuating with the market, right? It gives you the potential for some more long-term growth, but that is not the purpose of your emergency fund. It's to be accessible and keep you out of trouble, keep you from living in crisis mode. And what if the event that would threaten your financial life or cause you to need to tap into your emergency fund also brings with it a major drop in the markets?
Right.
You not only lose your job, but also the markets are down, and that mutual fund that you put the money into actually falls in value at the time that you need it most.
So you finally need this buffer of 3 to 6 months to try to find the next job, and it's not 3 to 6 months, it's 1 to 3 months that's available because the market went down. Here's the big idea. The thing that gets me so pumped up about this is as a consumer, you just can't tell. I mean, the commercials look great. That's a big company name. They must be doing something right. And this makes sense emotionally. How do you know? Certified financial planner, comprehensive financial planning. Does it fit? Does it bring synergy to your entire financial life? And if it doesn't test, if it doesn't hold that water, then it's not going to make sense. Your certified financial planner would never talk you into that. So, all right, great question there, Lee. I appreciate that. All right, that's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Kevin Korhorn, Josh Gregory, myself, and all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.